In what ways does your media project use, develop or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? To help me answer this question, I'm going to use a copy of NME magazine from November 2012 and alongside my original mixtape magazine. Firstly, both our magazines include a flasher. The barcode's also in the same place in the bottom right hand corner, and in the main image they use direct eye contact. With most magazines, the most important cell lines go on the left hand side. This is why I've chosen to put my cell lines here. Similarly, with the cell lines, the most important ones, which would be Jake Book on NME and Just Night on mixtape, use the biggest font and use different colours to represent different parts of the title, such as my Just Night is a different colour to the actual cell line, and Jake Book here is different to the actual cell line. The things I've so far described have been using the same sort of conventions that a typical industry magazine will use. I also considered for myself to have challenged some conventions, such as an alternative background. In my background, clearly it is not the same one that came with the image, whereas on the NME magazine, this is the actual location of the photography. As you can tell, it's in a restaurant / bar. Again, in NME, they've included more photos in the top right hand corner, whereas I decided not to use any, as I think it would distract away from the main image, which is probably going to be the most important thing that will attract my reader's attention. Also challenging typical conventions is the main image. Most main images on front covers are a mid shot, so that's from head to chest, whereas my main image I've decided to include the whole body, which is just different and shows a bit of a difference to most typical magazines, which could attract more potential audience for my magazine. Finally, you can see that there are multiple colours on both NME and mixtape. These will probably continue throughout the whole of the NME magazine, such as red here and black and white here. Although at first both the NME and mixtape magazines the contents pages look very different, I think they still include some typical conventions. For example, the layout of my magazine is very similar to the one of NME. For example, although this has got 3 columns, mine's only got 2. It also has the bottom section here, which breaks up the pages of breaks up the layout of the page. 7 different images were used in the creation of the NME content, whereas I only used 3. But I still think this shows a difference in images, and also there's a lot more different views of images. So, for example, this is a picture of a guy's face, whereas this completely excludes the guy's face. And here, my 2 models are doing different things and representing different icons, which is the same as the NME. As for different articles, again, the NME starts to explain the articles by using bigger fonts, so that's basically the title. Then a different font colour used for the number, which is the same, and then the writing in NME gets smaller to describe the actual article, whereas in my magazine the writing is a different colour. Most magazines include some sort of communication tool, so that's a Twitter or Facebook platform, which I've used in mine. Unfortunately, NME has not decided to include this on the contents page, but this is not to say that it doesn't include it elsewhere. So by including the platform tool, it gives an ability to communicate with the reader and the actual magazine, the company itself. Again, not really challenging the conventions of of industry magazines, but possibly challenging the types of NME, is the included editor's note. I think including this makes the magazine seem a lot more personal to an individual, and also gives you a bit of an insight to the magazine. I think NME have basically swapped the editor's note for a subscription service, so this is something I may consider if I was to do the project again. But I know that, however, I know most magazines do include an editor's note, so this is why I decided to also include it to mine, to stick to and develop the typical conventions of a music magazine. I did include my own feature, such as an introducing title. This isn't sometimes common in a magazine, but I thought because of my genre it fits well, because from my target audience I know that they want to find out about new artists, so I thought this would be suitable for my genre. Finally, my double page spread. First of all, I think the images are quite similar, although they probably don't look it at first view. For example, in my picture, and both the NME one, there were points of interest. For example, in my picture, the incorporation of the headphones compared to the guitar in the NME. This shows that my magazine is similar to industry standard by including such focus objects. Most magazines' double page spreads consist of an interview, or where the answer and response, or just a general summary interview. So I decided to develop that and actually use my article to display a review of a concert rather than speaking to the actual artist, although I did include some quotes from the artist to show that it still does conform with typical conventions, but I do think I managed to develop these in such a way. There's also only one image on both magazines, so this shows they are very similar in the layout. As for the titles, you can see that they are the biggest text on the page, but we both included different font colours, so that our changing is in relation straight to the artist, so that creates a point of reference, whereas the use of a swear word in my title sort of grabs the attention more than, because obviously if you know Jake Bugg, which is the guy included in this magazine, and know about him, then you will understand obviously the significance of the title, whereas I'm not assuming that everyone knows who this person is, because as we've already said, people want to know about new music, so by making it so personal towards the artist, I think that's not a great thing to do. So making my title more universal, it attracts a bigger audience. Other typical conventions might be things such as the drops cap in both featured in my magazine, and also we both included an intro and outro. Obviously you can only see the small intro here, and then a further intro into the actual article itself, because the double page spread in this magazine continues with 2 pages as it's an exclusive, but you can just clearly tell on my magazine the intro and outro is distinguished by different colour text, so that's what helps to signpost the reader. Actually, if you see the quote at the bottom of the Jake Bugg article, it is an actual quote, so that is similar to what I've done, whereas I've just used mine as a title, which I think is more attention grabbing, so it shows that our magazine are contending towards each other by including such features. I think that concludes the way my magazine uses, developing challenges, typical conventions of an industry magazine.